If it is five-legged or it only has three, or its feet are round like that of a donkey, and the shakal and the kasal. What is a shakal? One whose hip is dislocated, and a kasal, an animal whose hip is higher. One hip is higher than the other. The bone of its foreleg or the bone of its hind leg was broken, although it is not discernible. The aforementioned blemishes were enumerated by Ayala and Yavna, and the sages concurred with him. He also added another three, but they said to him, "We have not heard of these. These are the circle of its eye is round like that of a man, or its mouth resembles that of a pig, or the greatest part of its foretongue is gone." However, a subsequent Bezdin said these are indeed blemishes. It happened that the lower jaw of an animal protruded beyond its upper jaw. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said to the sages, and they said, "It is a blemish. If a kid's ear was doubled," the sages said, in the instance that it is one body, it is a blemish. But if not one body, it is not a blemish. And Kanina ben Gamliel says a kid's tail that resembles that of a pig, or a tail that does not have a three vertebrae, is a blemish. Okay.
Okay. Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus. It says, "Es sheyabeles be'eno." He also adds the following cases to the cases of the mumim. If it's got a yabeles, which is kind of a wart.
He calls it a wart. That's what he says, a wart.
In its eye. Even if it's in the white of the eye. Now we just said in a previous Mishna that there's something in the white of the eye is not considered a mum, but if it's got a wart on the side in the white of its eye, that's considered a mum. V'shenifgam etzem yado, or if its foreleg is if its foreleg bone is we've used that as nifgam means it's I say it's damaged, but we said it also it was, what was the word that we used to translate it? It's lacking. It's been in yeah, let me take a look at what the word is in the Kahati translation here. Oh, hold on. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, fine. Number 10. So he says if the bone of the hind leg is defective.
Defective, that was it, right?
Right, defective. The etzem raglo, and also the its back leg. The shenifsak atzmo shebafiv, or if the bone of its jawbone is or the mouth, the bone in its mouth. I don't know if that's its jawbone or if that's just part of the bone of its mouth. If it's been split. Eno achas gedola v'achas ketana, if it has one eye larger than the other. Ozno achas gedola v'achas ketana, or one ear is larger than the other.
By the way, I'm sorry, just to interrupt. On that wart in the eye, you mentioned the white. So it says here that it has to have a hair growing from it.
A hair growing from it.
That's if the Bechor has the white of its eye, has on the white of its eye a wart with hair growing from it, it's considered blemish. Although we learned in Mishna 6.2 that there are no blemishes in the white part of the eye, this wart has hair growing from it, which makes an exception because it looks especially repulsive.
Right. Okay. Cool. That's good. That's a good insight. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've also added on, so ears one larger than the other, eyes one larger than the other. Avalobamida. This is b'maria avalobamida. That it has to be something that's visually noticeable, not something just took calipers and said, "Oh, this one's larger than the other." So you can't get out of your bechor by taking calipers to the ear and say, "Oh, this one's 1 millimeter larger than the other." Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Achas mi beitzav gedola kishtayim b'chaverta. Rabbi Yehuda also adds onto this that if one of its testicles is as large as is more than twice as big as the other, the Chachamim said this is not considered a mum. Okay. Zanav egel she'ena magas le'arkov. Now, what if the calf's tail does not reach its knee joint? Amru Chachamim kol marbis ha'agalim kain. So all calves develop like this. And as they get larger, as they grow, the tail extends. So which joint are they talking about? So there are two joints in the animal's knee, and Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus says we're talking about the knee joint in the middle of the hip.
This is thigh, middle of the thigh.
Yeah. Do you have a diagram in there by any chance?
A diagram, but I don't know how clear it is. You can see it. You see any diagram yet?
Lift it a little higher. Yeah. Okay, a little higher. Right. Okay, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one in the middle of the hip. Okay. And that's how long is if the tail is that long, that's considered a mum.
Here they have two. They say the reach the knee joint. They talk about the thigh bone. They say here the upper part is known as the thigh bone. The second is known as the shuk, the shank bone. And the third one is the lowest section of the leg, composed of the hoof and the cannon bone.
Mm-hmm.
You said before that it was something to do with the thigh bone.
Yeah.
This says here it says thigh. All right.
Okay. So for any mum like this, then you're allowed to shech to bechor, and if you have a mukdashin, if you have an animal that's hekdesh and it develops one of these mumim, you're allowed to redeem it. Okay, al elu shochtin alehen, and so these are the ones that look that people talk about as mumim, but they're not bad enough that they qualify you to shech to bechor or redeem a hekdesh animal. Lo b'mikdash v'lo b'medina, whether it's in the temple or out or in the rest of the land when we're talking about a bechor. Chavar vad v'hamayim she'enam kavoim. So chavar vad is white spots and sort of water on the joints, which is not permanent. Or its inner teeth, which were damaged, which were reduced, but if they were uprooted, we said that was a mum. Bal gerev or bal yabelis. Okay, one with a gerev is, let me just get that. It's a kind of a boil which is moist outside and inside. Also a wart, a hairless wart.
It says scab. That one is a scab. And then it's a wart or boils. Scab is first.
Right. Right. Wart, Val Chazazis is which is the Egyptian boil, which is moist outside but dry inside and incurable. And the one mentioned here, which is curable, if which again is not a mum. Zakain, just because it's old doesn't make it a mum. Bechole, or if it's sick. Mizoham, or if it stinks. Right? Is that the right word for it?
Offensive odor.
Thanks. Yeah. Or if a sin has been committed with it, so that is like bestiality. If it was used for an immoral act, that does not allow it to be redeemed, and it doesn't allow it to be shechted. It's not qualified to go on the mizbeach, but it's not considered a mum. Or if somebody comes forward and says this animal killed a person, you need two witnesses to have an ox stoned, but one witness is enough to disqualify it from being put on the mizbeach, but it's not a mum, and if it's a core, then you can't shecht it. Or al pi habalim.
It could also be the confession of the owner.
Yeah, or that was the next thing that I read there. Okay, but tumtum. What if an animal has its sexual organs covered? You can't tell if it's male or female, but androgynous or it's hermaphrodite. Lo b'mikdash v'lo b'medina. All of these are not considered mumim that you could shecht it for, which is interesting that that being hermaphrodite would not be considered a mum. Because if it's missing its sexual organ altogether, we said if it's missing its testicles, that's a mum. If it's missing even one testicle, we said it was a mum. But if it's got extra sexual organs, or if its sexual organs are covered over, that's not considered a mum. Rabbi Shmuel ein mum gadol mizeh. He says, how could you have more of a mum than that? That's exactly my point of surprise. It's like, how could that not be a mum? Okay, the Chachamim say, forget about it. If it's a tumtum or an androgynous, it's not even considered a bechor, because a bechor has to be a male. So take it, shear it, work it, whatever you want. It's not even in the parsha of Bechoros. Okay, and that's it.
Okay. Dollar base.
Yeah.
If it developed a blemish during its first year, it's permissible to keep it for the entire 12 months after its first year. You may keep it only 30 days. If one slaughters a bekor and then shows its blemish, Rabbi Yehuda permits it. Rabbi Meir, however, says since it was slaughtered without the sanction of an expert, it's forbidden. And if one who is not an expert expected a bekor and it was slaughtered by his sanction, he must be buried and he must make restitution from his property. If one derived a verdict and he declared the guilty party innocent, or he declared the innocent party guilty, or if he declared something tameh which was in fact tahor, or if he declared something tahor which was in fact tameh, what he has done is done, and he must make restitution from his own property. But if he was an expert, approved by the court, he is exempt from making restitution. It happened that a cow's womb had been removed, and Reb Tarfon had fed to the dog, and the case came before the Kakaman, who declared it permissible. Okay, that's. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Although the physician said not a cow, or sow leaves. Is that right? Yeah, sow leaves. Until its womb was cut away, in order that it should not give birth, said Ben Tarfon, your donkey has departed. Tarfon, Ben Kiva said to him, Tarfon, you are exempt. You are an expert approved by the court, and any expert approved by the court is exempt from making restitution. Okay.
Brilliant.
Love. What is valid for the red cow is invalid for the decapitated heifer. What is valid for the decapitated heifer is invalid for the red cow. What is fit for Kohanim is unfit for Levites. What is fit for Levites is unfit for Kohanim. What is tahor in earthenware utensils is tameh in all other utensils. What is tahor in all other utensils is tameh in earthenware utensils. What is tahor in wooden utensils is tameh in metal utensils. And what is tahor in metal utensils is tameh in wooden utensils. What is subject to tithing is in bitter almonds is exempt in sweet ones. What is subject to tithing in sweet ones is exempt in bitter ones. Temet, as long as it has not been fermented, may not be purchased with tithe money. And it renders a mikvah unfit. After it has fermented, it may be purchased with tithe money, and it does not render a mikvah unfit. Brothers who are partners, when they're obligated to pay a korban, they're exempt from the animal tithe. Wherever there is a right of sale, there is no. I'm sorry, I skipped one. They are obligated to give the animal tithes. They are exempt from the korban. Wherever there is a right of sale, there is no fine imposed, and wherever there is a fine imposed, there is no right of sale. Wherever there is a refusal, there is no kalitza, and wherever there is a kalitza, there is no refusal. Wherever there is a horn blast, there is no havdalah, and wherever there is a havdalah, there is no horn blast. If a festival falls on the eve of Shabbos, the horn is sounded, and no havdalah is recited on the departure of the Sabbath. Havdalah is recited, and the horn is not sounded. How to recite havdalah? We distinguish between the holy and holy. Reb Dosa says between greater holiness and lesser holiness. Base Aleph. If one slaughters by cutting one of the organs of a bird or both organs of an animal, his slaughtering is valid, and the greater part of one organ is tantamount to its entirety. But Yehuda says until he severs the virgin. If he severs half of one organ and a bird, or one half of organs of an animal, his slaughtering is invalid. And if he severs the greater part of one organ of a bird or the greater part of both organs of an animal, his slaughtering is valid.
Okay.
Avos. Yerosi says, whoever honors the Torah is himself honored by people, and whoever disgraces the Torah, he is himself disgraced by people. Rabbi Yishmael, son of Yerosi, says, one who withdraws from judgment removes himself from hatred, robbery, and the responsibility of unnecessary oath. But one who is too self-confident in issuing legal decisions is a fool, is wicked, and is arrogant of spirit. He used to say, do not judge alone, for none judges alone except one, and do not say accept my view, for they are permitted to, but not you. Okay. Quiet. One who is half slave and half free work one day for his master and one day for himself. These are the words of Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai said to them, you have provided a solution for this master, but for him himself you have not provided a solution. He cannot marry a slave because he is half free, and he cannot marry a free woman because he is half slave. Shall he remain idle? But this was not the world created for propagation, as it is said, created if not a waste, he formed it to be inhabited. Rather, for the sake of the general good, his master is compelled to free him, and he writes a bond for half his value. Subsequently, Beis Hillel retracted and taught in accordance with the words of Beis Shammai. If one sells a slave to a Gentile or to someone outside of Eretz Israel, he goes free. Captives may not be redeemed for more than their value for the sake of the general good, and captives may not be helped to escape for the sake of the general good. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, for the benefit of the captives, Torah scrolls, phylacteries, and mezuzahs may not be brought from Gentiles for more than the value or the sake of the general good. One who divorces his wife because of a bad reputation may not take her back because of a neder, but he may not take her back. I really read that wrong. One who divorces his wife because of a bad reputation may not take her back. Because of a neder, he may not take her back. Rabbi Yehuda says that because of a neder which was known to the public, he may not take her back. But if because of a neder not known to the public, he may take her back. Reb Meir says if he divorced her because of any neder which requires the inquiry of a sage, he may not take her back. But if because of a neder which does not require the inquiry of a sage, he may take her back. Said Reb Elazar, they prohibited this only because of the other. Said Reb Yossi ben Yehuda, it occurred in incident that one said to his wife, Kohanim, if I do not divorce you, and he divorced her, and the judge said allowed him to take her back for the sake of the general good.
Okay.
If one, right.
Okay, we're on to Shabbos.
Right. Shabbos, one.
Daled.
Oh, I put in one place. Sorry. One who throws a distance of 4 cubits in the sea is exempt. If there is a shallow pool of muddy water with a public domain passing through it, one who throws a distance of 4 cubits, it is liable. How much? And it says a shallow pool, less than 10 tefakim. A shallow pool with a public domain passing through it, one who throws it a distance of 4 cubits is liable. One who throws from the sea to the dry land, from the dry land to the sea, from the sea to the ship, from the ship to the sea, or from one ship to another is exempt. If ships are tied together, one may move things from one to the other. If they are not tied together, even though they are close to each other, one may not move things one from the other. One who threw something and reminded himself after he had left his hand, or another person caught it, or a dog caught it, it was burnt in flight, is exempt. If one threw a stone with the intention of inflicting a wound upon either a man or a beast, and reminded himself when the wound had not yet been inflicted, he's exempt. This is the rule. All who are liable for sin offerings are not liable unless the beginning on the end of their acts are both inadvertent. If the beginning was inadvertent but the end was intentional, or if the beginning was intentional but the end was inadvertent, they are exempt unless the beginning and the end are inadvertent.
That's it. In Taurus.
Okay, Daled Zayin. There are uncertainties that the sages rule Tahu, an uncertainty regarding drawing water in a mikvah, an uncertainty of Tuma, an uncertainty of Tuma. What is it, the page? Tuma. Floating on the surface of water, an uncertainty of Tuma concerning beverages. With regard to acquiring Tuma, the uncertainty is deemed Tameh. Whereas with regard to conveying Tuma, it is deemed Tahu. and uncertainty concerning tuma of hands with regard to requiring tuma, to conveying tuma, and to becoming tahor, and indeed and deemed tahor, and uncertainty in the public domain, and uncertainty concerning rabbinical edicts, and uncertainty pertaining to kulin, and uncertainty concerning taratzim, and uncertainty concerning all afflictions of taras, and uncertainty concerning virus, and uncertainty concerning firstborn, and uncertainty concerning sacrificial offerings, and uncertainty concerning tuma, which is floating on the surface of water, is rule tahu, whether in containers or on the ground. Rav Shimon says in containers the uncertainty is deemed tameh, and on the ground it is deemed tahu. Rav Yehuda says an uncertainty relating to one's descent into the water is rule tameh, and uncertainty relating to his ascent from the water is rule tahu. Rav Yossi says even if there's no space in the water for anything more than the person's bulk and the tuma, he is tahu. An uncertainty of tumor involving beverages with regard to acquiring tumor is deemed tameh. How so? If a tummy person stretches his leg among the tahor beverages and is uncertain whether he touched the beverages or he did not touch them, the uncertainty is ruled tameh. If it was a tummy loaf in one's hand and he threw it among the tahor beverages and it is uncertain whether the loaf touched the beverages or did not touch them, the uncertainty is ruled tameh. And an uncertainty concerning beverages with regard to concerning tumor is ruled tahor. How so? If there was a staff in one's hand and or on its tip there was a tameh beverage, and he threw it among tahor loaves, and it is uncertain whether the liquid touched the loaves or did not touch them, the certainty is ruled tahor.
Right,
okay.
That's it for today.
All right.
All right.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay, you're off to shul. Okay.
Okay, bye.